Jordan was um, Jordan was great. And unfortunately for all the other people who canceled, they missed out because there were only 3 of us left in a group of 11 who were supposed to go. And so we basically had a private guide for 3 people and a host. And then when I got to Jordan, the other couple had never intended on going. So I was by myself with a full-time guide and a full-time driver.
That's luxury. Oh my goodness.
So I mean, it was an amazing experience because I did see I did see Egypt and I did see Petra in a way that I never would have if there were 12 people going up on and off of a tour bus, and we just cut in front of lines because it was just us, so we were in front of tour groups all the time. It was just an amazing experience. And of course, Egypt is overwhelming. It's indescribable, the experience. And Jordan is interesting, but Petra is unbelievable.
It's ancient ruins. What exactly is Petra?
Petra is it was carved out of, everything was carved out of sandstone. And you have temples that are carved out like caves and then carved fronts. It's magical. They have an amphitheater that was carved out of a mountain. I mean, it wasn't built up, it was cut out. It's brilliant. And
when was this done?
I don't know, before Christ, you know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Anyway, it is what's amazing about Petra is really the sandstone itself. The formations, the rock formations, the minerals in the walls. When you walk into these caves, it's like marbled with minerals, with well, that's what is Jordan is rich in minerals. That's the only thing that they have is minerals, and they have no oil or anything like that. Strange for the Middle East, but they have these minerals, and the mineral deposits in these caves is just it's just huge, and the colors because of the minerals and the sandstone. It's just amazing. And it was just me with a guide who was less than half my age. And so I'm in pretty good physical shape. And so we were gambling around like little mountain goats.
Oh, great.
Through out of these caves. It was just an amazing experience. Anyway, if I sound enthusiastic, yeah, it was over the top.
What was interesting, I was in Egypt. I took a bus across the Sinai to snorkel in Dahab, and I never felt unsafe, even, on a bus by myself going across the Sinai. So I appreciated that. And you felt safe all the time as well.
Absolutely.
Cathy, you were there since October 7th?
Oh, yes. I came back 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, tell us what was their perspective? What were you hearing on the Egyptian side or their Jordanian side about the war? I mean,
nothing. Nothing.
Oh, what does that mean?
That means it's their problem.
Well, Egypt is involved because it borders.
But they weren't allowing anyone to come in. It's their borders, but Gaza is very far away. it shares a border, but it has a huge desert between them.
Uh,
Yeah, neither Jordan nor Egypt will accept anyone from Gaza or the West Bank.
No Muslim country will accept any of them.
Right.
They're just trapped there, locked up.
Yeah.
It's a horrible situation, but
everybody,
I don't.
that.
I mean, our guides wouldn't go there, our drivers wouldn't go there. No, it was just, and
I wouldn't go there.
Henry doesn't have electricity, so that's why he's in the dark.
I got no lights. I got temporary power.
Cathy, what did you see in terms of the economy in Egypt? And I know Jordan is more than half Palestinian refugees, right? They're in camps. What did you see about kind of daily life?
Jordan seems very westernized, even though you do see a good number of women. I would say not a majority, but certainly 30 to 40% of the women are covered. But I don't mean the black. I mean, just
scarf.
But women are very much central to the economy. Women are professionals. Women are policemen. Women are in the army.
This is Jordan you're talking about.
This is Jordan, yeah, and it's a young country, and it's a progressive country, yeah, yes, it's obvious that you'll hear the whatever they call them, the mulins or whatever, early in the morning, the call to prayer.
Oh yeah.
You're in a basically Muslim country, but you don't get that sense that you might get if you're in Iran, that no, it felt very, very much like a modern country. When you get out from Amman and you go way south, you see a lot of Bedouins, a lot,
with camels and the whole bit.
Yeah, camels and yeah, temporary housing kind of things, and very colorful. Yeah, and yeah, that was, and Egypt is obviously very poor, and they seem, I mean, everyone seems happy, everybody, and content. You don't see beggars for some, I don't know. Egypt is very interesting, and it's really not Arab. It's really Egyptian.
Mm.
Well, but they speak Arabic.
Yes, they speak Arabic and English. Most of the people who are educated speak English.
And El-Sisi has completely shut down free speech or democracy advocacy. Did you hear any complaints about that, or they're not talking about it?
I didn't hear any complaints.
Not talking, yeah.
Yeah, and we were with guides and drivers. The drivers spoke okay English in Egypt, but just like drivers would need to speak. In Jordan, the driver was absolutely fluent. And I was with him for 4 days, so he and I had plenty of opportunity to converse. But no, I guess they just don't talk to tourists about things like that.
Right. But what about the Palestinian refugees in Jordan? Because they're over half, right, of the population is Palestinian refugees.
I was not aware of it.
Hmm. Oh, you didn't, they kept you away from.
I was not aware of it. I can tell you that my guide was telling me that the Syrians who are refugees are kept in refugee camps. She was very proud of the fact that they accepted all of these Syrians. But she was also, she also told me that they are not allowed to take jobs in the city. They can't take jobs from the Jordanians. So they have their own community. She was so proud of it. And I just thought, you're talking about a permanent refugee camp. You're talking about a little Syria. But I heard nothing about refugees from Gaza or Palestine or Palestinians. Not at all. Nothing.
Interesting.
I was not aware of that at all.
I don't think they're there.
Somebody look it up.
How would they get there? It's not really possible to get there.
Let me look it up. While I'm looking, does anyone have another trip experience to share that they've had this year?
Not as good as that.
Bill, have you been flying?
Yeah, I went down to Palm Springs Saturday for a golf game yesterday morning and came back.
Oh, neat.
Hour
It
and a half.
said, wait, more than 2 million registered Palestinian refugees live in Jordan, the largest number of Palestinian refugees of all UNRWA fields. Most, not all, have full citizenship. About 18% live in 10 recognized Palestinian refugee camps throughout the country.
Yeah. That's pretty much what our guide was telling us about Syrians. And I think pretty much the Jordanians will not blend people from other countries into their business communities and professional communities. They just won't. They stay in refugee camps. They have their own little communities or big communities. I understand that the Syrian community is the second largest city in Jordan.
Mm.
The refugee camp.
Mm.
So those refugees, were they from previous conflicts with Israel?
In their own countries. They're refugees from their own countries, from the Syrian, from
Oh, no, I meant the Palestinian that Gail just referred to.
oh, I don't know about the Palestinians.
Yeah, how did they get there?
Well, I think they went there years ago in previous military conflicts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Bill, do you have any thoughts about the current war that's going on? Israel, Gaza, Hamas?
Well, I had a question. I missed the last one. I had it marked down the wrong time on my calendar. But did Joel get on and talk about the information that you sent out, the position he took?
About
come
what?
today. He can't come today.
No. Well, a month ago, you distributed a statement from Joel to his students, I think, or the greater student body.
Oh, right. Yeah,
And
I don't think anybody responded to that in particular, but you can.
no, I just wondered if it was discussed at the last. Okay, yeah.
But what are your thoughts? Because I know you think about these matters.
Yeah, no, it wasn't real clear to me what he was trying to say. I thought he equivocated. But in any event, I think the Israelis have it's imperative upon them to destroy the military force that invaded them. And until the Hamas are eradicated, the Gazans are going to live in a hellhole. And but 75% of them approve of what Hamas are doing, according to a Pew Research study. So, and I think since 2005, the Israelis left Gaza for self-governance, and nothing's gotten better. There was an interesting podcast by the name of Lex Friedman who interviewed Jared Kushner recently after October 7th. And when he was in the White House, they put together a plan for Gaza, 180 pages long, about how it could be developed with budgets and everything, and how you could employ most of those people if capital was put in the right places. You got 25 miles of beautiful shoreline you could put in resorts, all types of businesses you could create, and yet Hamas has done nothing to that extent.
Well, Hamas doesn't rule Gaza. I mean, the coastline, the Palestinian Authority does.
No, the Palestinian Authority is on the West Bank.
On the West Bank, right?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about on the Mediterranean.
Okay.
You got 25 miles of coastline there. You could have beautiful resorts. In any event, I think that the point that he made was that there's a great opportunity there, but it is irrelevant as long as Hamas is in control. They've all been on the dole from the UN since 1948, and nothing has gotten any better, only worse. They take the funds and strengthen their military and their tunnels. So
it couldn't get too much worse.
no.
Well,
So,
and then to be devil's advocate, the Palestinians say it's an apartheid state, just like South Africa was, and they had to fight back because of incursions, settlers from Israel taking over their land and that kind of thing. So I don't think killing children and civilians is the way to protest, but I can understand their rage.
what do you mean it's an apartheid state?
I mean that Palestinians are discriminated against and their lands taken, and they don't have they live like blacks lived in South Africa in their own quarantine areas without equal opportunities.
What? By apartheid, you mean that the Israelis gave them Gaza and they're self-governing? I'm not sure.
I'm talking more about West Bank, because that's where the incursions are, of taking away Palestinian houses and land. And well, it happens in Jerusalem too.
But the conflict is with Gaza, not with the West Bank.
Right. Okay,
Right.
good point. Yeah.
So what would be your solution to Gaza?
But what Biden says, a two-state solution. Let's have clear borders and.
That's what we had, and look what they did with their state.
Well, they didn't have a state.
Well, yeah, they have Gaza. It's self-governing. Hamas is the government in Gaza. The Israelis totally left Gaza. So in essence, it is a two-state solution, but the solution, you still 75% of the people want to get rid of Israel. So how do you have someone on your border who wants to get rid of you and live with that? I mean, it's
So
the Israelis are supposed to have some of the best security in the world, and then right under their nose, Gaza was turned into a military armed camp. Really bad judgment by the Israelis to just let it happen on their watch.
Well, yeah, and then Netanyahu's getting blamed for that for sure.
Well, he should be. Happened on his watch.
Yeah. Well, so what, Bill, if you were in charge, how would you solve the problem?
I think you have to go take Hamas out of Gaza, and that is a lengthy process. It's going to be costly in lives and injuries and destruction of property. But if we're in California and Mexico's next door and they're shooting missiles at us every day by the thousands over the years, you know, what would we do? I think we would go in and just destroy it until they no longer had that capability. So,
The Mexicans do it with drugs. They don't do it with missiles. They make money off of us.
right.
They're not
much more
stupid.
powerful.
They're not stupid enough to blow up their money supply.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
And then,
yeah,
then what?
I mean,
Let's say,
I don't like that solution, but I don't know how Israel protects itself by letting the status quo, you know, living with the status quo.
right. Well, difficult. Everyone agrees on that. And what I always think is 2023 human beings, the only way they can solve problems is to kill babies on both sides. It's just so barbaric. It doesn't make any sense.
We're talking about human beings, though, and human beings have been warring since the beginning of time. We're a vicious group.
Oh God.
It's part of our DNA. We have 98% or 99% the same DNA as chimpanzees, and
Yeah, but
they break into clans and groups and have wars.
what people say, we're also as closely related or more to bonobos, and they don't war. They just solve everything with sex. So they don't have tensions, and they don't war, and they're matriarchal. So we can look to our bonobo relatives as well as our chimps. But Cathy, I mean, history verifies what you say. It's nonstop war.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we were young, it was, and I ain't gonna study war no more. I ain't gonna study war no more. Joan Baez, right?
Yeah.
And we thought we could make a difference.
Right.
And
Well, what about the college students that are supporting the Palestinians in this conflict? How do they? Is
there's
that
a
a
difference between supporting Palestinians and supporting Hamas. So I think they're using the apartheid imagery that Palestinians are second-class citizens and are, you know, jailed and don't have free speech and work like peons.
Now again, you're talking about the West Bank, not about Gaza, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but these protests are about Gaza, not about the West Bank. And
Well,
they support.
but I mean, the West, whatever, the Palestinians in Gaza and West Bank don't live well, and we could all agree on that. And so, but your point is, well, they had a chance under Hamas with plans like Kushner's to develop something, and they didn't, so it's their fault.
Yeah, it's the Hamas rule. I mean, the Hamas kicked out the PLO and sent them over to the West Bank, and you know, I mean, they're just a bad group of people. All they want to do is kill the Jews. I mean, that it's in their mission statement. So I think Israeli has all the reason to eradicate it for self-preservation.
Does anyone else have any trips besides Cathy?
Where's Cathy's next trip?
Oh, but Cathy, you were in Europe and you were in Mexico. Where else have you been? You're our travel vicarious pleasure person.
Well, I spent the summer in Vail, and yeah, and so next month or in January I go on the jazz cruise, and in April I'm going to.
Wait, where is the jazz cruise?
Oh, it's always in the Caribbean, and it doesn't really matter where it goes because it's just for the music. And my husband and I have gone every year, but the first year when we didn't even know about it. And so, yeah, I continue to go, just me and so many people that I've met over so many years who go every year. So it's a lovely week. And then in April, I am going to the 100th anniversary of Neville Mariner, who started the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, which is one of the most well-known chamber orchestras in the world. And I've been invited to that celebration, so I'm very excited to go.
It's in New York?
In London.
Oh, in London.
And then I will fly across the little pond and spend my yearly week in Paris. You guys are all welcome to join me.
In Paris?
Uh-huh.
Est-ce que
And
tu parles bien le français, mon ami? Tu parles
sorry.
français? Tu parles
Oui.
français? Oh,
Un tout petit peu.
ah oui. Vous pouvez demander où est la salle de bain, n'est-ce pas?
Où est la salle de bain?
C'est très pratique. Oh, good. We get vicarious pleasure from that. John, how was your show? Did you make money? Were you pleased?
Well, I don't really know how much money I've made yet. It's just come down very recently, and there were some difficulties that the husband of my dealer died, and so she was not really able to be there a lot, and so I don't know. To me, it's been the whole time has been a very kind of confusing situation. So I don't know. I think I made as much as I made of the last show, but maybe there's still deals going on. But I don't know. It's been a very confusing period to me in general.
Do individuals or institutions, are they more likely to be your buyers?
Oh, they're collectors. They're individual collectors.
So they're John Leonard connectors?
I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
So John Lee's collectors? Sorry.
Well, there's some that have continued to buy some things and things with Betty and I mean, I'm kind of an anachronism. I'm not really part of the contemporary art world very much.
It seems like the contemporary art world, it's all about innovation. You want to do something that is the most far out that no one else has done. Is that fair enough?
I'm the person that listens to Artie Shaw and Helen Forrest and things like that. I sort of live in the 30s and the 40s and the 20s in different ways, and so I guess that's it. I think I have to be more of a student of what's going on in the Middle East. I mean, I think I should just start studying from ground zero, about the whole thing.
Well, then we should get you to fly over there and solve the problem when you're done.
Well, I could solve the problem I think a wooden flute. I think with a wooden flute, one could solve it.
With the flute?
A wooden flute, yeah.
Oh, a wooden flute.
Yeah,
You would charm everyone?
Well, actually, I play a tenor recorder a little bit, and so maybe I could put good vibes out in the air.
That would be good.
Not.
Oh my goodness. So Henry, are you making progress with your house building repair from the fire and electricity and stuff?
Yeah, they're working on everything. It's a slow, very slow process. I don't know why.
It seems slow. Why is it so slow? I mean, you're in LA, you're not.
Yeah. It's none of my business. My brother and my sister have taken control of the house, so it's none of my business.
But you live there, so it is.
I know, but I am 100% out of control. I don't have a say in anything.
That's frustrating.
Yeah, I've gotten over it.
Oh, good. I thought I would be very interested to hear people talk about purpose. Why do you think you're here? What's been your purpose in life, if any? And Henry, why don't we start with you, since you've probably thought about that as a Buddhist?
Well, and also being in recovery, I go around to all these Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, and I've kind of like gotten out of the bad neighborhoods, and I spent most of my time in West Hollywood and Beverly Hills because of the underprivileged addicts. I've kind of like they're all younger people, and they're harder to relate with.
So
You know,
what would you,
Beverly Hills are a little bit more mature, which
so
I
what would you
appreciate.
say your purpose has been, or what have you learned, or what are themes and meaning in your life?
Well, I've been helping people with drug problems, drug and alcohol problems, and you know, like tonight I go to one of the most famous Narcotics Anonymous meetings in the world, where they hand out noisemakers at the door and they have their own DJ. It's like a New Year's Eve party. Yeah,
Every time?
every Monday. Yeah.
Oh. Oh, and people dance and sing and stuff?
No, they don't dance. They might sing a little bit, but no, they have a guest speaker every week. However, most everybody's in a different generation than I am, so it's, you know, yeah.
And what do you find is most helpful in as you're working with these addicts? What makes them think, ah,
Uh,
I get it?
I people don't really listen to me very much, so I'm considered an old fuddy-duddy. I'm too strict for most of them, and so you know, I'm just too opinionated.
Sorry. And where does Buddhism play a part in your thinking about meaning?
Well, I've been hanging out with some Muslims because they don't drink and the Jews do. I had my first drink when I turned 13 in the synagogue. They give you some Manischewitz wine. Then 20 years later, I crawled back saying, "Oh no, too much, too much."
Hi, Gil. This is a reporter from the Reading Glass bookstore. I'm calling because I was able to see a recommendation coming from our
Sorry, I have to get rid of this.
Climate Girl today in
Goodbye.
our world, and I had a conversation with one of our executives.
So
Now
do you
I had my first drink at University Synagogue in Brentwood in 1955. 20 years later, in 1975, I came back. I said, I've had enough.
let's see. John, what would you say meaning, purpose of your life is? Big question.
Well, I've just directed all my energies and interests into, I guess you'd say, the humanities. I don't know anything about science. I think I have a learning disability. I can't tell north from south unless I'm standing in my living room. But most of everything I've done has been directed towards drawing and painting and the things I like to take in, you know. I'll tell you one. Well, I think I've even said at one point that, you know, one of the things I'm proudest of is the way I managed to give up all those addictions I had. I never took hard drugs. Alcohol was my hard drug. Fortunately, I was sober during very long periods. The latest one is since 1997. So I didn't manage to do damage to my health. I stopped smoking weed after I had a heart attack in 2010. I stopped smoking cigarettes in 1970. I think that's one of the best things I ever did.
Yeah.
And once a shrink said to me, you seem to have a pretty good track record of dealing with substance abuses. And strangely, that I got a rush of feeling pride from that. I don't usually feel a feeling of proud of this, you know, but I actually,
As well you should.
yeah. I mean, I actually felt that kind of feeling. It would, yeah.
What have you
And it doesn't
learned?
have to do with willpower. I know none of it had to do with willpower. You know, there are times you can stop. There's times I've tried to stop and I couldn't, but there were some times that I could, and I stuck with it. And it wasn't that, you know, I was no, I won't. It was just sort of not in me. The alcohol desire, the little, what a person I call the little guy that's inside, that's asleep. He's asleep. You know, if I were to take one sip of an alcohol, so, oh, you know, he's waiting. Oh, I see. Well, maybe maybe you can be
Just one
moderate
drink.
this time. You're a reasonable person. That's the one I have to watch out for.
That's the true definition of an alcoholic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people would disagree. You go, no, not me, not me.
Yeah. Oh, I always knew I was. I used to think it was cool. I mean, John Barrymore was an alcoholic, Dylan Thomas. Why shouldn't I be? You know, I mean, you know, but that was quite a while ago. I mean, I feel free. I mean, like for it's even with not smoking weed, I mean, that I can get into a car anytime I want. You know, I don't have to plan each day around. Well, no, I can't do that. I have to go there. That means I can't smoke or drink before I go there. But then I wanted to do this. No, let's see. I'll do that one. No, I'll go here first. Then I'll come home. Then I can drink. Every day was, you know, I can just step into a car anytime I want. So I've been very lucky about those things. I think.
I was working with a guy who had so many drunk drivings. He had a breathalyzer in his car, and he had to breathe into it before the car wouldn't start.
Wow. No, I wouldn't drink when I'd been anything except in the 70s, and I was very lucky. I never hurt anybody, including, you know, very lucky. But since then, I never mixed cars with substance.
Having a long
My purpose has certainly been
creativity.
my work as an artist. Yeah.
What about having a long marriage? How has that added to meaning or not?
Well, you know, I kind of think it's kind of like what Dave said. The secret of not getting staying a long marriage is don't get divorced. I mean, we both, you know, we've certainly had a lot of problems, but I mean, both her parents and my parents just stayed married for long through all kinds of stuff. And Ruth and I have just done that. I don't know what else to say about those sort of things, you know.
What stage are you in now at 80?
I'm a geriatric shut-in. Is that? I mean, I'm not a very worldly person. You
Or
know,
you go out and teach?
I teach from Zoom these days. Yeah. So I don't have to go down to New York City. Which I'm glad of. I don't.
Yeah.
I have some walking problems. I'm now using a 4-pronged cane. So I mean, I have trouble in uneven terrain. And you know, a city with curbs and, you know, and subways. And I mean, I don't use subway. When I go down, I use the cabs, which I don't like. I don't like that. I like to feel pretty free in that city, and I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kathy, what would you say about meaning of your life?
I that it's a very, very hard question because I'm a bit of a dilettante. And so I've dabbled in a number of different things throughout my life. Um, I would say that I've been a connector for
Interesting.
people.
Interesting.
Um, it's very interesting. My other best friend, Bill, knows my longest term best friend. And you all do too, Peggy. But I've had a best friend in my adult life since college. We were born the same day of the same year. And we both had one child. And our lives were just so parallel. I mean, you know, she would call me and she would say, oh my gosh, I've been feeling this or I've been feeling that. And I'd say, oh my God, you know, me too. Just, we had so many common things. Well, the one thing that is lucky for me, not so lucky for her, is that she got pancreatic cancer and died very recently. And what I realized when she died was that she and I had a friendship that was completely independent of any other social group. It was just she and I were friends. And I thought to myself, I've had a number of those relationships in my life where I say I'm a connector, but I'm a connector of through what I do with young people and the arts. I'm a connector to making sure that they have opportunities and to follow through with that. But in my social relationships, no, not so much. I don't connect people with each other socially. So yeah, it's hard to answer that question. Yeah, I'm happy with what I've done. I'm happy with my long partnership with my husband. I'm happy with the way my family has grown, my son, his wife, grandchildren. Yeah, accomplishments. Little,
I'd
but
like to talk to you about jazz sometime. You know, I got involved in jazz in 1960, you know, and I mean, I took on the whole thing from Jelly Roll Morton up through John Coltrane. I mean, just the whole thing that's just been one of the most important things in my life. I discovered it at the same time I discovered abstract expressionism. And so it's just been very important to me.
But Kathy, didn't you say you weren't that enthused about jazz, at least not as much as Howard, just the genre?
oh no, classical music has always been my, you know, I was always into music, remember, even in high school. But Howard was a jazz fanatic. You talk about 1960, John, and yeah, he was going to, his uncle would take him in Chicago, and it turned out that his father, who died when he was 2.5, Howard's father, was a total jazz fanatic in the 30s.
Wow.
And he and my mother-in-law they would travel for jazz. They would go to Cuba to hear jazz. And my mother-in-law said to Howard sometime when she was in her 80s or even 90s, she said, honey, do you know why you love jazz? And Howard said, no, not really. And she said, because your father loved jazz. And Howard was raised by his stepfather. So he said, Dad didn't like jazz. He never liked to have any music when he came home from work. She said, no. your birth father loved jazz. And I do believe you're trying to connect with him when you hear the music.
Huh,
Mother-in-law said that.
that's very interesting. I
And
think
Yeah.
I've always been trying to connect with my parents were not really children of the Depression. They were born in 1902 and 1904, so they were people of the 20s in their youth. And I listened to my father and talking about that period a lot. And I think that's a way I've tried to connect with him in certain ways.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he probably heard it when in the uterus too, when his mom was
Yeah.
pregnant with him. So he heard it from the get-go as soon as he
Yeah.
was here. Interesting.
But he never understood how he came to love jazz. But he would go to Chicago to visit his uncle when he and his mother and his sister and he moved to California. He would go back over the summer and he would ask to go to to hear jazz music, and his uncle would take him. Interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. Nice. Bill, what about you? Meaning of life?
Well, I think as a Christian, the purpose in life is to glorify God and set an example for others, hopefully to respect, appreciate, and also hopefully accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. We've been successful at that as a family. Our kids and our grandkids are all Christians and strong believers. So, and hopefully we've had impact on others in a similar manner.
Yeah. When did you become born again, if we want to call it?
About 20 years ago.
Oh, it's been a long time.
Rather late in life, yeah.
And what happened at that time that was the catalyst?
My wife is a very strong Christian, and I think had kind of gotten away from it, came back to it, and I always felt there was something greater in life than myself, and as I studied it more and more, studied the Bible, I was convinced that that is the path to follow.
What I don't understand about that branch of Christianity is, do you think that Jesus is the only way to have salvation? You have to accept your dependence on Christ for saving our sins caused by original sin. And so someone who doesn't accept Christ goes to hell.
Correct.
But how does a loving God fit into that?
Well, if you don't accept him, then he doesn't fit into it.
Yeah, but what if you don't even know? What if you're raised in some illiterate society island somewhere, you never heard of Jesus Christ?
Some people say that you really do know, you just aren't exposed to it. And I don't think I have a real good answer for that because it's speculative. But for those who do know, if they reject Christ, then they go to hell.
So the logic is, Adam and Eve were created pure, and then Eve tempted Adam and they wanted knowledge and they became sinful. So we inherit their sin as babies. So because we're sinful, we're doomed for hell unless we call on Christ's grace that he achieved by dying on the cross. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay. And then, but it's what if Adolf Hitler accepted Jesus Christ? I mean, would all his misdeeds they'd say, okay, at the last he accepted Jesus, so we'll take him to heaven?
I believe that if, regardless of who you are and what you have done, if eventually you accept Jesus Christ and confess your sins, yes, that you will be saved.
And it's like
because Gail, because we're all sinners, and everyone sins almost every day. And sin is not in gradation. Sin is sin. So whether it's Hitler and the horrible things he did, or us, not obeying one of the 10 Commandments, it's all the same. So we're all sinners, and we're all asked to be forgiven.
So Catholics have, or at least used to have the concept of purgatory, where if you didn't do such terrible sins, you'd have a chance to kind of redeem yourself. Is there anything like that in your understanding of Christianity?
No, it's grace through faith. Christianity is the only religion in the world where you don't have to display good works in order to be saved and go to heaven. And that's the distinction from all other religions in the world.
So I could be Hitler and say, I accept Jesus, but I'm going to keep on killing Jews, and I'd go to heaven.
Well, if you accept Jesus and continue to sin in a rather horrible manner, you probably are not going to be saved. But if you accept him and repent of your sins and then continue to live a life that is as sin-free as possible, then you can be saved.
So there is a
It's
qualification.
redemption.
Go ahead.
It's redemption. You're talking about then. Accepting Jesus' redemption.
Redemption, right? Yeah. Yeah, you can't say I've accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior and then go out and commit adultery every day and murder
Right.
people like that. You're not going to go to heaven doing that. You have to work towards that redemption. I think.
So there is a place for good works then.
Yes, good works is encouraged, but good works are not necessary to be saved in Christianity versus all other religions.
Well, they are, but they aren't. I mean, because we do have to have some kind of evidence of good intent. Even, I mean, I could lust over some married man, and now it's a sin, but that can be forgiven because I didn't act on it. So but if I killed someone, but then I said I accept Jesus Christ as my Savior, I'm forgiven for killing someone.
If you lead a good life thereafter.
Got it. So for me, the meaning of life is that we're here to evolve and grow, just like all of nature evolves and grows. We're here to help others, and we're here to appreciate the creation, because I think the Creator likes, desires appreciation for the beauty of the universe. And then I think that the soul continues forever. I believe in karma and reincarnation. And I think that karma isn't punishment. It's just a way to work to evolve and grow and face the consequences of our actions. And I was really lucky that we were raised in the Church of Religious Science, which was really positive and didn't emphasize sin. So that was a blessing. We didn't ever have guilt or shame that like a lot of kids grow up with.
So you believe God created the universe and the earth?
I don't believe it's a man and a beard in heaven, but I think it's a divine order, intelligence, law, whatever. I interviewed a British physics Nobel Prize winner, and he calls it intelligent design. And he doesn't mean that the universe was created in 7 days. He doesn't mean that. He means that there's an intelligence, because like our bodies are so incredibly complicated. I mean, just one cell, the intelligence in one cell is incredible. So he thinks the sophistication and the complexity of just our bodies alone indicates it's not just random chance that
Right.
which we evolved, in random selection of genes and that kind of thing. And
So then you would reject evolution?
oh no, no. I think that evolution, I believe that we're descended from chimps and bonobos. I think that the universe is very old. It's not 7,000 years old. But there's a divine order and intelligence behind it. It's not random. Excuse me. But do you think the universe was made in, I mean, was made in 7 days?
The time period to me is irrelevant. The issue is who created the universe and the earth, which would be God. A day could be 1,000 years, 1,000 years could be 1 day. So whether it was truly 7 days as we now know it or some other time period, the point is that God created it.
But you
Right.
don't believe in evolution?
No, there's nothing to support evolution.
Well, you don't think that the fact that our DNA is so similar to chimps and other primates that we evolved from them?
I don't. Our DNA goes back to Adam and Eve, so I think
We did not evolve from them. We paralleled them. We have a
Yeah.
common ancestor is what it is.
Yeah, they're our cousins.
Yeah. So, but
We
we
build
did not evolve from them.
Well, we all evolved, I think, from a single
Yeah,
cell.
from a common ancestor.
Yeah, but Bill doesn't think that. Because Bill, you think that that humans were created like there was Adam, ping, then
Right.
there was the rib, and there was Eve, ping, like
Correct.
that. Yeah.
and the descendants came from Adam and Eve, and they started out as what we would consider to be humans.
And then when you look at the Bible, do you consider it literally the word of God, Old Testament and New Testament?
Yes, I think that's.
But
Go ahead.
Jesus contradicted a lot of Old Testament teachings. Like he said, it's the spirit that counts, not the letter of the law. Turn the other cheek. It's okay to bear witness to women. It's okay to heal someone with an issue of blood. So he contradicted a lot of Old Testament teachings.
I don't know. I'm not aware of that. But the Old Testament
That's
also
why they
points
killed
out
him, because he was such a rebel.
well, he went against the Pharisees, and they didn't want any competition. So I think it was much more selfish than that.
Yeah, no, Bill's right about that.
About what? Go ahead, Henry.
Oh, why he was killed.
Well, the Romans killed him, right?
Well, it was a Roman ruler, but it was the Pharisees, the Jews, and Jesus was a Jew, and they didn't appreciate what he had to say. So they had to get rid of him because he was a threat to their business.
They said he was king of the Jews, and they did not want any competition. They were ruling.
Right.
Cathy, where are you in terms of like belief systems? Because you were raised not very Jewish, right?
I was raised Catholic,
Oh, you were raised Catholic. Oh,
and and yeah, I am a strong believer of a higher force, a higher power, and I don't have a name for that power, but yeah, but I definitely feel that there is something much more powerful and larger and more beautiful and more intelligent than we mere mortals.
yeah, right. What impact did it have being Catholic? I mean, did you go to Sunday school and were you confirmed and all that?
Well, I have Jewish forefathers. 3 of my grandparents were, and all converted in the early 30s. And so, and because they all left Germany and moved to France. And so we were more secular Christian or secular Catholics. We did go to, I did go to church on Sundays. I went to boarding school, Catholic boarding school, but in France. But yeah, I got very confused because then my aunt married my uncle, and we moved to the United States, and all of his family was Jewish. And then I married Howard, all his family was Jewish, but I never, so very confusing.
As a child?
Well, as a child, I mean, I believed in Jesus Christ, but then all of a sudden I got surrounded by Jewish people, and just I don't know. I can't answer because I'm very confused. And I came to my own comfort with, as I said, a higher power. I'm a strong believer. But not affiliated religiously, really.
How old were you when you came to the US from France?
I was 10.
That's a confusing age in itself. My goodness.
Well, it was confusing on a lot of levels, you know.
Language.
So I had lost my father. I had as we say in French, mouvementée, une vie mouvementée, a lot of motion,
Right.
always, you know, just going here and being there and being moved here and there. And then I came here, and it didn't stop, because then my mother found this awful person to marry. Anyway, yeah, I didn't have a very stable childhood, let's put it that way. My stability came in my marriage, and I'm so grateful.
And
And I
what,
think my stability, Gail, had to do with people like you and your parents, and having relationships with long-lasting relationships and meaningful relationships with people who had a normal life.
what does your son, what did he draw from now?
What did he draw from?
I mean, does he think that he is Jewish, that he's Catholic, that he believes in this?
No, he doesn't feel Jewish or Catholic. He married a Chinese woman who, from Taiwan, Taiwanese Chinese. She was not raised with religion, and they have not raised their children with religion, which I think is a bit of a problem for their kids. They don't know where they sort of fit in that spiritual. They're going to have to figure that out.
John, do you want to take us out with, do you believe in God?
Well, I think it would ultimately be hypocritical of me to say I don't. First place, when I usually think of God, I guess I think it in terms of something that's constantly expanding, you know, the universe, just even our thoughts about the universe and things like that. And my mother was, I guess you'd say she was kind of a liberal humanist. I mean, she would answer that she believed in or tried to live by the teachings of Christ. I mean, she thought of it I think she thought of Christ as an ethical philosopher. But two things have happened. You know, push comes to shove. What do you believe? Maybe I told you this. When I was in Assisi, where the Cathedral of Saint Francis in Italy, and I mean those giottos and things. That's why I went there. And I know I was the tomb of Saint Francis is in the basement, and you go down and you wait in a line if you want to touch it. I touched the tomb. And did I tell you the story? I touched it. It was, you know, it's like this, you know, it's probably static electricity. I mean, there would be perfectly logical reasons of it. And I had this cold rush going through my entire body. But I went over and I sat on a bench. I was thinking about it. And I said to the tomb or whatever, maybe I should talk to you about my drinking.
That's
And,
great.
and within the next 2 weeks, I stopped drinking.
That's great. I love it.
At the same time, I got an ultimatum from Ruth, which is always a big. And that was the last drink I had. That was in 1997. There are other times I stopped, but then there was another situation. I had a heart attack, and when I was in this kind of recovery room, I don't know. I was just sitting there. It was very, very confusing. I mean, after that, you know, I mean, this one nurse was saying, "You are the most difficult patient I've ever had in my life." But I was just, you know, and I couldn't, I won't over here say it as loudly or as, you know, oh God, oh God, oh God. No, that's prayer.
You were praying to be healed from the heart attack?
I must have been when push came to shove. So what can I say?
I think it's very interesting, though, to see the way you expressed yourself with your arms.
Yeah,
Expansion.
yeah.
That's been a word that we've heard, is that God is expansive.
Oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to tell dialect jokes, but I'm part Irish. Am I allowed to speak?
Sure. There's no rule.
There's I can't remember what this old sailor was asked if he believed in God. No, I'm not at all. I'm an atheist. Yeah. And the person talking to him said, well, how come I saw you taking communion the other day in church? And he said, well, I'd be a damn fool if I didn't. I kind of feel I fall in there somewhere.
That's great. Yeah.
Oh. That's a great goat to go out on. Thank you, people. That was a good discussion. I really enjoyed. I'm so glad you hopped on. And we will see everybody in December.
Okay, terrific. Great.
Thanks.
Wow.
Thank
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks,